A good horror movie can scare the shit out of the audience, but scares only work if the audience is actually invested in the characters. That's why it is important to create empathy for the characters before you put them in a life-threatening situation. Jennifer Kent's The Babadook is a great lesson in character building. The film doesn't rely on cheap scares because it is the character's fear from which the horror stems out. In this video, we'll discuss some of the techniques that Jennifer applies to create empathy for her characters. Needless to say, but massive spoilers ahead. One of the most crucial things in a screenplay is to make the audience care about the characters.
I know you don't love me. The Babadook won't let you. But I love you, Mum. And I always will.
The easiest way to create empathy for the characters is by assigning certain traits to them. We empathise with characters if we feel pity for them, admire them, or if we see our reflection in them. Here are some specific examples of character traits that help us to empathise with the characters in The Babadook.
I just want you to be happy.
I just want you to be happy. Sometimes I just want to smash your head against a brick wall until your fucking brains pop out.
Unjust Treatment. Samuel's dad died in a car crash while his mum was giving him birth. His mum, Amelia, is too harsh on him. Sure, he bursts firecrackers, breaks the window with a catapult and brings a homemade gun to the school, but he does that only to protect his mother. At school, the principal informs Amelia that Samuel has to be separated from other kids due to his behaviour, and even his cousin Ruby doesn't want him at her birthday party. His mum scolds him for being disobedient and for believing in monsters. Similarly, Amelia is also treated unjustly at her workplace. Her boss is bitchy towards her and her sister doesn't want to visit as Amelia is too depressing.
You don't come round to our house anymore?
Because I can't stand being around your son.
I can't believe you just said that.
Even in the moment of emergency, there is no one she can turn to. Both Samuel and Amelia are isolated because they talk without any filters and are treated unjustly by society as well as by each other.
I don't even have time to go to the gym anymore. It's ridiculous.
That's a real tragedy. Not having time to go to the gym anymore. How do you cope? You must have so much to talk about with those poor disadvantaged women.
Save the cat. Samuel is not exactly a likeable character. He is an annoyed kid who is also a danger to the people around him. The evil kid is a popular trope of the horror genre, so the easiest way to distinguish him from the evil child is by showing his humanity, by giving him a save the cat moment. Save the cat pertains to a scene in the movie where a character saves someone more vulnerable than themselves at the risk of their own life. In The Babadook, Samuel assures his mum that he will protect her from the monster, and when that moment arises, he does exactly that. We empathise with Samuel because of his devotion to his mother. This is one of the golden rules for creating empathy. The character should care about something or someone other than himself.
You touch my son again, I'll fucking kill you!
Disability. Disability can salvage an unlikable character. This is why this trait is generally used for anti-heroes to compensate for their immoral actions. For instance, a drug lord who is suffering from cancer, or a mafia boss who goes to a therapist. One shouldn't use mental or physical disability as a mere tool to create sympathy for characters.
It'll be 7 years. Isn't it time you moved on?
I have moved on. I don't mention him. I don't talk about him.
The disability should also be central to the plot. In The Babadook, Samuel is developmentally challenged while his mum Amelia is suffering from depression, and both these traits are equally crucial for the story.
Do you think this is funny? Oh, no. No. No.
Give it to me!
Do you want to die?
Thrust into grief. One way to thrust characters into grief is by putting them in a tragic situation. It is no surprise that some of the most remarkable horror movies of recent times, The Babadook, Under the Shadow, Hereditary, are built on a family torn apart by tragedy. Amelia is a single mum who grieves for her dead husband. Showing your characters crying doesn't create empathy for them, nor does it reveal their grief. One way to make the characters' grief apparent is by showing the contrast. There are two brilliant scenes at the beginning of the movie that create empathy for Amelia. One is where she sits on a park bench and watches an infant playing, and the other is when Amelia is in a parking lot and she sees a couple kissing passionately inside a car. These scenes reveal what is missing from her life. Character's core wound. The character's core wound is a tool to make their grief more palpable. The audience doesn't know the characters well enough to grasp the magnitude of their grief. This is why sometimes it is conveyed through a backstory. The core wound is something that appears before the story begins, generally in the first few pages of the screenplay. It reveals through action or dialogue the pain and suffering the character has been going through. It is crucial not only for creating empathy, but also for revealing the character's true identity. In The Babadook, the core wound occurs in the very first scene of the movie, a dream sequence that reveals how Amelia lost her husband in a car crash while simultaneously giving birth to Samuel. Attempting to overcome fear. In The Babadook, Amelia's fear is clearly expressed. A children's book says that Mr. Babadook will get inside her and make her kill their dog, her son, and in the end kill herself. A mother who just swore to protect her son now has to protect him from her own self. That's every mother's nightmare, that she might end up hurting her own child. There is a brilliant scene in the movie where Amelia watches local news, which shows a woman in the neighbourhood who had killed her own son with a kitchen knife, similar to the one she was holding a few moments ago. We don't like facing our fears, so we feel sad for characters who try to overcome their fears in the story. That's what a good horror movie does. It reminds us of our own fears. Character flaw. A character flaw is a personal problem that is hurting the hero in such a fundamental way that it's ruining their life. In The Babadook, Amelia's character flaw is that she can't move on from the past. In a very crucial scene of the movie, Babadook takes the form of the husband and demands to sacrifice the kid, forcing Amelia to confront her fears.
You can bring me the boy. You can bring me the boy. I think it's going to rain.
In her journey to protect her son, she finally overcomes the grief of losing her husband. In a way, Babadook is a movie about a woman coming to terms with her grief. One of the biggest complaints with horror movies is that they don't spend enough time in building characters. But Jennifer Kent's The Babadook does a fantastic job of tying horror to the characters.